Grampians Peaks Trail is one of the longest and hardest on the GPT. It begins at Roses Gap Road and ends at Mount Difficult Road, close to Werdug campsite, for a total of 20 kilometers with 1,000 meters elevation gain in 9 to 10 hours. The car shuffle required is also the longest for the whole GPT, and there are a couple of alternate routes, but more about that later. Will you hike all or parts of the Grampians Peaks Trail? Gar Cottages has great packages including trail transport for you. Gar Cottages, spacious, self-contained eco-villas in the heart of the Grampians. More about them and their GPT packages at the end of the video. We walked Daywalk 2 over 2 days with the night at spectacular Gar Campsite as we were going at toddler speed with our 2-year-old. If you're fit, start early and don't have to carry 20 plus kilos, you should be able to finish this daywalk reasonably well. We started from Roses Gap Road. The trail first follows the Waterfalls of Gar section of the GPT, which can be especially spectacular after heavy rain. See my video on that in the description below. This time, at the end of the summer, the falls were as dry as they get. I'll show you a little peek of each waterfall to cover both extremes. After each waterfall, the trail climbs steeply up onto the next rock shelf. After the third shelf, you reach a small plateau and the trail leads almost due north, away from the goal of Mount Difficult Gar. The views from here of Mount Difficult, Gar and Roses Gap are spectacular. Another steep climb brings you to the next plateau. Here the trail leads through between two boulders leaning on each other. If it's a hot day, then this is a perfect spot for a break, in the cool shade of the rock with the breeze funneling through the gap. There's not much shade afterwards until and after the summit. The trail now becomes undulating as it runs perpendicular to the lay of the land over a couple of smaller ridges. Finally, it swings south and follows craggy gullies, slabs and ridges to Gar Campsite, 1.3 kilometers from the summit. This is a good rest spot with great views, shelter, toilet and rainwater tanks. This is where we stayed the night as we were going at toddler speed. The views from Gar Campsite are spectacular and the sunset can be stunning. We packed up in the dark to have a go at sunrise as well, this time from Mount Difficult Gar summit. The summit is definitely better for sunrise than sunset. We left our packs at the turnoff to the summit, which is another kilometer up rocky slabs. The views from up here over Lake Werdug and as far as the Victoria Range, Mount William, the Sarah Range are fantastic. Sunrise itself was again a bit underwhelming, but you might be luckier. On the way back to the junction, the morning light made up for it, with wonderful views of the northern Grampians, with Mount Stapleton, Gunnigulk and Mount Zero Mura clearly visible. The trail dips down into a saddle above Deep Creek Gorge and then follows the Mount Difficult Range south. To call this undulating isn't doing it just. Some sections are very steep and the trail can rise and fall as much as 100 meters. Much of the trail is also at a sideways angle over rock, which will tire out your ankles. This is an old trail which was incorporated into the GPT and it doesn't exactly go out of its way to avoid inclines or get to viewpoints. There are certainly sections of Type B fun here. Of course, there are exceptions which I show here, but it's not much for 6 hours of walking since Gar Campsite. I would rate Daywalk 2 of the GPT a 4 out of 5. The climb up to Mount Difficult Gar offers spectacular views, cliffs, wildflowers in spring and some of the best waterfalls in the Grampians after heavy rain. This easily deserves a 5 out of 5. The section from Gar Campsite to Mount Difficult Road intersection then falls behind expectations and I'd give that a 3 out of 5. Now, I promised to come back to the alternatives and side treks which are possible on day walk 2. The walk up to the summit of Mount Difficult Gar should be a no-brainer, as you're walking the Grampians Peaks Trail after all. This is a 2-kilometer detour and will take about 1 hour. Another 2 kilometers, 1 hour detour leads to Briggs Bluff, but you get similar views along the Mount Difficult range, so this is optional. The alternatives to split this day into 2 are not great. You could hike out via Long Point East or West Camps, but it's quite far to Mount Difficult Road and you'd lose your elevation. 200 plus meters for Long Point East and 300 meters for Long Point West respectively. Lastly, a few words about the long car shuffle required for this walk. From Waterfalls Gap it will take you an hour to get a car to the end of the walk on Mount Difficult Road, which is gravel but 2-wheel drive. To then get a car to the start of the trail on Roses Gap Road will take another hour. To get back to Waterfalls Gap after the hike it's again about 2 hours of driving. From Roses Gap I'd recommend to drive via the Western Highway A8 to avoid the often rough Mount Zero Road. Thank you for watching and see you again in the next day walk video on the Grampians Peaks Trail. If you want to hike this or other trails in the Grampians, Wander and Cottages will make an ideal base for your stay. With the Grampians Peaks Trail packages, you get trail transport to and from your day's trailhead and sleep every night at your comfortable cottage. This means you only carry a day pack. Water availability on the trail is no issue. Your fridge, deck, barbecue and of course shower awaits you. NBN and electricity for your backup, recharge and communication needs. Your private washing machine and Woolies deliveries at your doorstep. And of course a comfortable bed and easy walking distance to pubs and restaurants in town. With their spacious self-contained eco-villas, Wander and Cottages is perfect for couples, families and small groups. Located in easy walking distance to the center of Waterfalls Gap, yet tucked away in a quiet forest setting and bordering the national park, Wander and Cottages makes for great wildlife viewing. Wander and Cottages strives to minimize your holiday's ecological footprint. All toilet paper, tissues and paper towel are made from bamboo. There is a water recycling system in place. All electricity is 100% green renewable and solar is in the making. All cottages have 2 bedrooms, a large living area with fireplace and modern aircon, a fully spec'd out kitchen, a bathroom with separate toilet, 2 private decks and a private barbecue. But don't just take my word for it. Check out the great reviews on Google, Booking.com and Airbnb. For the best price and special offers, always book direct at wanderandcottages.com.au.